So, what does it really take to heal from a love that completely changes who you are? We're going to dive into a pretty personal story about heartbreak and the 2-year journey it took to rebuild from it. It's a really raw look at what happens when a relationship that defined your life ends and how you eventually find your way back to yourself.
So, this whole story kicks off with this incredibly powerful and honest admission. 2 full years. We often look at that and think it's a weakness, right? Like a failure to just move on. But what if it's the total opposite? What if that time is actually a measure of how deeply you are capable of loving? This really sets the stage for a journey that's about so much more than just a breakup. So, how do you know? How do you know when the healing is truly, finally over? For him, it wasn't some conscious decision he made one day. No, it was a dream. A dream that showed him he had finally reached the point of no return.
Okay, so get this. In this dream, he sees his ex-girlfriend, and she's smiling, she looks absolutely radiant, and she's pregnant. I mean, just imagine the wave of emotions that could bring up. But what happened next was something he never ever would have expected. Instead of pain or jealousy or that old familiar pang of love, he felt something else completely. In the dream, he literally knelt down, put his hands on her belly, and just prayed for the baby's health and happiness. The feeling wasn't love, it wasn't pain, it was just pure gratitude. Gratitude for what they'd had, and gratitude for this new life she was bringing into the world. So what on earth did that all mean? Well, his mentor broke it down for him. The dream wasn't about some lingering feeling. It was his subconscious showing him something huge. Their paths were never going to cross again. That pregnancy, it symbolized a future he was no longer a part of. And that was it, the final, irreversible end of that chapter. A relationship doesn't just teach you what you don't want. If you're really paying attention, it shows you what you truly, deeply value. And for him, that whole realization started with a really simple but powerful promise he made years and years ago. Okay, picture this. He's 19, totally broke, living in this tiny apartment in Paris. He promised her this absurdly expensive 450 euro perfume. For 4 years, he kept this little sample card with the name written on it, and in one of their last meetings, he finally fulfilled that promise. But here's the most important part. In all those 4 years, she never once asked for anything material. And this, right here, gets to the absolute core of the lesson. She loved him for him, not for what he had. The irony is just crushing, right? Their relationship ended right when he started becoming financially successful. And now, his biggest fear? Finding someone who loves him for himself, not for his success. A standard that, without even trying, she set for him. And get this, he almost didn't even meet her in the first place. For months, he'd see her in the library, but he completely misread her. He thought her shyness was disinterest, like she was ignoring him. I mean, how many times have we all done that? We misread a signal because we're scared, and we almost miss out on one of the best things that could ever happen to us. Sometimes relationships don't end with some big, loud explosion. Sometimes they just erode, quietly, without anyone even noticing, until it's way too late. And the reason is often because two people can be madly in love, but feel completely, totally unloved. And this so often comes down to this idea of the 5 languages of love. The concept is pretty simple. We all give and receive love in different ways. And if you and your partner are basically speaking different languages, you can both end up feeling completely unheard and unappreciated. And here it was, their exact mismatch. His love language was words of affirmation. He showed love through praise and encouragement. But her language? It was gifts and details. Not like expensive stuff, but the small, thoughtful things that showed he was thinking of her. So they both loved each other like crazy, but they couldn't feel it because it was like one was speaking French and the other was speaking Japanese. All right, so let's talk about the breakup itself. For him, the end just felt so sudden, like a switch was flipped. But the really painful truth is that the relationship had been ending for months before he even had a clue. This is such a fascinating insight. The idea is that she had been grieving the loss of their connection for months. Every little disappointment, the growing distance, that was her mourning period. So by the time they had that final conversation, she'd already processed a lot of the pain. Meanwhile, his was just getting started. And from Paris to New York to Andorra, that physical distance was the silent killer. It wasn't the big moments they missed. It was the thousands of tiny, everyday ones. The shared silences, a random, boring Tuesday together, making a spontaneous plan. Distance just slowly, quietly erases all the little things that make a relationship feel real.
Which brings us all the way back to the healing process. This was never about getting over it quickly. It was about honoring the love that was lost by actually taking the time to properly, fully heal. So, 2 years. It sounds like a really long time, doesn't it? It sounds like you failed to move on. But he completely reframed it in his mind. He realized that the length of the pain was directly proportional to the depth of the love. It was proof of his capacity to love someone that completely, a capacity he never even knew he had in him. And you know what? That's something to be really proud of.
But his biggest mistake in this whole process, not going contact zero right away. He stayed in touch, trying to support her through a tough time, but all it did was prolong his own agony while she was able to move on. Cutting contact is absolutely brutal, but sometimes it is the most necessary, painful act of self-love you can possibly do. So after all the pain, the healing, the lessons, where does that leave you? Well, the final takeaway here isn't about finding someone new. It's about a total and complete personal rebirth. I want you to try this. It's a really powerful exercise. Just for a second, close your eyes and picture the absolute person of your dreams. I mean, think about their values, their ambition, their laugh, the way they make you feel. Get that picture totally crystal clear in your head. Okay, now open your eyes and ask yourself this and be really honest. Looking at the person you are right now, today, would that dream person choose you? Are you the kind of partner that the person of your dreams is actually looking for? It's a tough question, I know. And that, right there, is the ultimate lesson. The heartbreak, the pain, the loss. They aren't just things you have to suffer through. They're the curriculum. They're the lessons preparing you to become the person who is finally ready for the love you actually deserve. After 2 years of cold, of darkness, he can finally feel the sun again. And that's the whole point of this entire journey, isn't it? It's not just about surviving the night. It's about finding that spectacular feeling of a brand new day beginning.